If you see one of these, you better run like, well, you get the idea. So, original era of European Zoid releases, or OER, original European release. This isn't quite a perfect box, but that wasn't really what I was trying to get it for anyway. But what I always liked about these boxes was that there was very simply a picture of the actual model you were going to get inside the box. And it is that is exactly what it looks like. I mean, you know, you can't say fairer than that, really. You get exactly what it says on the tin, so to speak. This is a long-legged mutant red Zoid with back-mounted blaster. He can cause havoc on a hit-and-run raid, which indeed he did frequently. You saw this guy a lot in the comics, and he was actually frequently on the front cover of the comics, and you know, or he was sort of caught in Zoidzilla's claws as it was being crushed to death. So it was a frequently used one, and I'm going to use this in my sort of static display of a selected number of Zoids, simply because it's quite a nice tall one compared to some of them that I have, and it is a very, very, you know, common one in terms of my memories of Zoids and the Zoids comic. So it's a nice one to have. I haven't got it out yet, so I'm going to have a look at it now for you. I have noticed that it is open on this end. This was a classic Zoids thing, so you got these little vouchers that you could cut out and send away. Obviously the big Zoids had higher value vouchers in, but you could send off the sort of special rewards and so on when you got them. So someone's rebagged this in a plastic bag, which is very sensible, and they completely dismantled it. That I wasn't expecting. I really thought that it might have fit in the box made up, but apparently not so much. Fortunately, well, I can try and if I've got enough, yeah, but I might be able to put it together on camera. That wasn't my plan, but I can probably do that. So classic Zoids instruction booklet here. I'll just show you the back of this. So that was the standard sort of imagery that you got in the back. And again, those are all genuine Zoids toys that are showing all of their normal functionality. There's nothing sort of, you know, drawn on that. That's a Spider-Zoid. Again, I'd quite like to get one of those, because I had one of those when I was little and I loved it, because you can detach the cockpit and then use those laser guns there directly onto the cockpit, and you can just whiz it around as a little spaceship. I loved that. Then it would fit in my pocket. But the whole thing was great because it actually worked. You know, it moved. I think that's a Mantazoid. Possibly, I might be completely making that name up. That's I'm going to say it's is it a Slitherzoid? Something like that. That's a mutant, and these are blue Zoids, so they sort of scrap. But interestingly, all of the red Zoids came after the blue Zoid models. Well, sorry, these guys probably came about at the same time, but the blue Zoid models came out first, the sort of really basic looking ones. So as a result, all the red Zoids tend to look a lot cooler than the blue Zoids, the early blue Zoids. But you know, it was a sensible move on their part because it made them look a lot slicker. So there's the standard spiel. You can see it was French and German there as well, so it was designed for the European market as a whole. And just say that, interestingly, it says, with more than one, you can customize Zoids to make new monster machines of your own terrifying design. I don't think that's strictly true. You might be able to swap some of the weapons around, but actually all of these are very specific parts, you know, for the Zoid that you've just built. You can't really interchange them that much. Now, I'm sure somebody who knows Zoids better than I do will you know, call me on that point, but they never struck me as being massively interchangeable. That's the French version. Monster machines qui ont la puissance pour se propulser. Monster machines with the power to move. It's a slightly more understandable version if you're English speaking. But again, I just like the artwork on the cover. I always have done on those boxes. So apparently, I'm now building a Hellrunner, which was not my plan. But okay, let's try and rebuild the Hellrunner. Okay, and I'm stood up as well, which is going to make life even more interesting. Okay. I'll try and keep both in shot for you, but that may or may not be possible down the line. I think some of it's already made up. So, I mean, obviously the cockpit's already together there, which is fine. Although, even that's not quite correct because... Let me just skip ahead here. So you can see that the cockpit actually is not quite as straightforward as this might lead you to believe, because you are supposed to put that in as well to give it the sort of red lip look that it's got. And again, these were more sophisticated looking than the blue Zoid equivalents of the era. The blue Zoids did get slightly different cockpits later on, but that's the one that I've got there. So I can pop the silver mutated android into his cockpit. So that's quite a nice shiny example of one actually. So gold for blue Zoids, silver for red Zoids. But he fits in there very happily. And then you just close them away. Right, making a Zoid. Okay, this could be interesting. One motorised wind-up doodah, which may or may not work, depending on what sort of mood it's in. It's going to work. That's a very, very positive sounding motor, fair dues to them. That looks like a body piece. That looks like a body piece, yeah. Although it's not the right one for that side, I need the other side. You have to have your wits about you with these, because you could get confused fairly easily. I think that's that. That's what should slot in there. So the motors and things are probably interchangeable. That's one light source died. Let's see if I can move my main light in a little bit and try and keep it lit for you. That's slightly better. I say I wasn't planning on this taking quite so long, I must admit. And I have no idea how these were originally lined up. That looks like a tail that goes in there. That's right around. I should have another neck piece somewhere. That looks like a leg. That looks like a leg. That looks like back mounted plaster. That looks like a back mounted piece as well. That's a chest piece. That is not what I'm looking for, is it? Nope. That's a foot. That's a foot. That's what I'm looking for, I think. Holding these up and doing it at the same time is probably not the way you're supposed to do it, but anyway. And then I'm going to put that on there and hold that all together, hopefully. Yep, that's that. Okay, that's progress. And then I would imagine, okay, it wants me to put the blaster on now actually. Okay, I thought it would want me to put some pegs on the top, but apparently not yet. It's always amused me about this back blaster was whether or not it could actually shoot its own cockpit off, and it rather looks like it could. It's always possible, so that's that. Okay. So I need to put a right leg together and a left leg together. That. Chicken leg walker like that. Yes, that looks about right. That's going through there. Then the classic Zoid peg onto there to hold it in place. That's that. Okay. That's one. I shall do the other one. If I have back problems after this, I'm suing, by the way. But unfortunately, only myself. Okay, that's two. I've done my droite and my gauche now. That's wonderful. So now we've got... Okay, so I need to put turn that around. And then putting my right chest piece on with the leg underneath first from the looks of it, I think. So it's like, no, hang on, where is that going? That's supposed to go on there? That seems unlikely to me somehow. That can't be right, because otherwise it won't end up, no, that can't be right, because it won't connect with the, oh, I see, okay, yeah, there's another little, so you really do have to have your wits about you for these. They are, it's really, I don't even know if you can see that. There we go. So there's a tiny little metal piece there. So you've got to get this piece of the leg over that little protrusion like that, and then you've got to hook the leg up the top there at the same time. So you've got the little metal pin there and the plastic pin at the top to hold it all in place. And then I've got to slot one of these, that looks like the right direction, over the top of all of that. And that, I imagine, is going around, oops, no, I knew that was going to happen. This is why trying to do this while you stood up is probably not the best idea. So you see, to say that these are interchangeable, you can create your own, I think is a bit of a misnomer, because I really can't see you being able to do that, but terribly easily. Because all of these pieces are moulded for the particular creature that they're designed to make move. So I'm guessing it's the same principle on the other side. I think that's probably a good guess. Yep, so that's in, although it doesn't feel like it is. Make sure they're not fighting each other. It's quite difficult to line them up. I'm trying to get it flush onto the body and it doesn't want to go. Might be about as good as I can get, I think. Yeah, I'll be about as good as I can get. It's all coming apart. It's all coming apart. Right, let's see if that'll work. That might work. Let's replace this. I mean, you can imagine the sort of joy you could have trying to figure out whether or not you've got the right pieces if you've got sort of a job lot of Zoids pieces, because there are so many pieces you could end up with if you just literally had a mixed bag of them. You'd be there for hours trying to figure out whether or not you've got it all. He's got his little claws as well. Velociraptors eat your heart out, because this predated Jurassic Park by God knows how many years. Now, is that the right way? Have I got that the right way around? Yeah, probably, because he's going to slot some more pegs on here. If I run out of pegs, I'm going to be annoyed. Okay, I'm officially annoyed. No, it didn't come with enough pegs. That's naughty. Oh, eBay seller, you've sold me short. I'm missing a peg for his arm, which is deeply annoying. I don't even know if I've got a spare I can borrow from another model, but I might have. And then finally you put this... Where is that going? I'm not entirely sure where that's going, to be honest. Fix either 13 missile launcher or 14 electromagnetic pulse gun. I see. So it's an optional extra So you can either have the blaster on, or you can have a missile rack on, which is interesting, because I can't recall them ever having a missile rack on in the comics, personally. Oops, let's get that. You have to be so careful with them, because they're not very tolerant if you get it wrong. And one little piece can hold a lot of other stuff together on them. This is the trick, because if that claw isn't in place, that's it. If that claw isn't in place, then it doesn't hold one side of the entire Zoid together, which is a bit of an issue for me at the minute, because that cockpit's just self-destructed as well, which is not helpful. Not helpful at all. Perhaps I didn't put it together properly the first time. That's always possible. So I might run out of video space very, very shortly, but in any event, that is effectively a Hellrunner. And, you know, very, very common OER Zoid thing. I'm sure a lot of people had this one. You might be wondering whether or not it works. I have no idea if it works, to be honest. It might do. And I might even have enough storage space left to show you, if you're very, very lucky. But I do think it's going to self-destruct, because it has no... It has no arm on this side. Yeah, it's kind of working. Go on. It can't quite get over its own... Well, you get the idea, it's trying. Sometimes I just don't know how far to push winding these motors up, because, you know, they are very, very old. But anyway, it's not a bad attempt. It's not a bad attempt. Yeah, that motor's going to... One quick deletion of phone space later, and so that's that. So that's it, basically. So that is a Hellrunner. And that's as good as it's going to get to complete, unfortunately, at this point in time, because I'm lacking that peg for it, as I mentioned. So I'll have to have a dig around just to make sure it hasn't fallen out in the original box. But as you can see, it wants to go. It wants to go. It just can't quite overcome gravity and its own weight, unfortunately. But other than that, it's a nice little example. And for display purposes, even if I can just find another peg, then it'll display fine. The only other downside with this one, as you may or may not have noticed, is that it hasn't got any stickers on it. I did query that with the seller, but it was quite reasonably priced. So it's a bit of a shame that it's completely without stickers, but it is what it is. So, on that bombshell, I will leave you there. Do like and subscribe as ever, and I will catch you for the next one. Cheers for now.